This episode of Profiles in Risk is brought to you by Insurtech Connect Las Vegas. The legendary ITC is coming back to Vegas October 14 to 16 at the Mandalay Bay Casino. ITC is the largest Insurtech conference in the world by a long shot and the absolute cannot miss event of the year. We never miss it, neither should you. Register today using our discount code INSNerd200. Again, that's INSNerd200 and see you in Vegas, baby. And when you're there, look for me. I'm the guy with the red top hat and ask me for a magic trick. Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. Today I'm recording with Todd Hawk, founder and CEO at Elisa for Life. Todd, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going great, Tony. Thanks for having me here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, looks like you are in Delaware. So Delaware, we're recording middle of October. I'm guessing already pretty cold. Haven't had.
You know what? So I actually am in Dewey Beach, Delaware, and we're having a little bit of an Indian summer. So as I look out, I'm pretty close to the beach. So I've been looking out my window today as I've been sitting here, and there's people going to the beach. So that's
Nice.
yeah. So yeah, that's not going to last. That today actually might be the last day for that, but
Yeah.
still pretty cool. So still pretty warm here, which is cool.
Fantastic for almost Halloween.
Yep.
So we always give the guests a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Elisa for Life?
Great. Yeah. So I'll try to make this elevator pitchy, but it might be a little longer than that. Yeah. But from a top down level, we're obviously an Insurtech and we're in the life insurance space. And from a top down level in life insurance, term and perm, obviously term, there's a good online experience you can go online, pretty much get into a term policy if you're willing to pay up for instant issue and all that. But permanent life insurance is a whole nother story. I can get into some of my background and how I got in there at some point if we want to do that. But, permanent life insurance is still very much a door-to-door, process. In that, our whole premise at Elisa for Life is that for the up and coming generation of buyers that would be kind of aging into buying a permanent life insurance, cold calling and mailers and traditional ways to get people involved with permanent life insurance are not going to fly. Nobody's picking up the phone. That's not going to cut it. And that's not good for the industry in general. And the industry knows it's a problem, aging sales force, all the things you'll read about, all the reports and all that. And it basically, there is no online experience, and that basically precludes independent life insurance agents from really getting in front of this generation of buyers. So what Elisa for Life is done is kind of bridge the gap. And if you look at a typical independent life insurance agent website, it's, you might get somebody there, but usually it then says, give us your name and number and we'll get back to you. And that's anathema, to this. They're like, nope, not doing that. So Elisa for Life kind of bridges the gap between if you get people to your site and how to keep them there and get them involved. And what it is, Elisa stands for Electronic Life Insurance Sales Assistant. It's an embeddable. Yeah, I know. I'm not leaning too much into that, but it's, it's kind of, that's where the name came from. And what it is an embeddable digital advisor, which, we can put it anywhere on your website. And it's basically it's a digital sales assistant. It would kind of ask the questions, educate along the way, that if you had somebody kind of calling for you or kind of an initial intake and kind of, if you were talking to somebody for the first time. And it's a series of questions. We score those questions. There's a whole bunch of educational materials, interactive along the way. And then Elisa makes a broad recommendation. It might be an accumulation whole life, or accumulation IUL, something along those lines. So the agent that then is going to talk to that customer, that's a lot of room to maneuver. We don't want to paint them into a corner. And then we get a lot more personal information from, name, number, gender, age, state, all that good stuff, but also how much coverage you need. We help them figure out how much coverage they do need. Do you want distributions? When? There's some underwriting questions in there. How much can you fund the policy? And then all of that information is taken for the agents that we work for and is sent out to them in a nifty little lead report. So kind of from a top-down perspective, we want to make sure that people can still find life insurance and get started online. We want to help independent agents compete with some of the insurtechs that are doing this now. That they are technology companies at their heart, and we want to make sure that independent life insurance agencies don't get pushed out by that. And really, from that's kind of the top-down picture, but from more of a nitty-gritty selling of life insurance, it's really just an awesome lead generation tool. And what we're trying to do in what we do is we have team members that help you do everything. So it's really plug and play. We embed it. We have technology people to embed it. We have a marketing team that sets up all your marketing to it. And the company I co-founded before this did this direct to consumer. So we have a lot of experience in how to get this done, how to get people there, how to follow up with them. And we do all that for you. And really what it is, to use like a kind of a fancy analogy, it's kind of like the Web3 of lead gen. Right now, there's a few lead selling organizations out there, and the lead buyers kind of don't know where they came from. It's a little bit opaque. Some of the lead sellers are great, and they produce good leads, but it's kind of lowest cost lead. You don't know what the intent is. It's a lot of wasted dialing. But what we do, we remove it's completely transparent, and we're completely in line with our customers to make sure you get the highest intent lead for the best cost. And you see everything about how that lead is generated, where it came from, how high intent it should be. And so we're kind of pulling back the curtain on that and letting every agency that chooses to do this be their own lead generation machine, rather than giving dollars to somebody else to generate leads for them, and then it goes behind a kind of a veil. So that was definitely not an elevator pitch, but that is what we do.
All right. Okay, so basically, I agree with the generational piece with the millennials and Gen Zers are not responsive to cold calls and mailers. Most of my friends, myself definitely included, really don't answer my phone if I don't know who's calling. Right? I have to let it go to voicemail and probably not check that voicemail afterwards. So yes, it's a very challenging situation for independent life agents, and life has always been hard to sell to begin with. Right? Nobody wants to think about their death, and it's not mandated like by your mortgage lender or by the government or whatever. It's not mandated the way that a lot of PNC is. So life has always been sold, not bought. How do you sell if you can't get in front of the client?
That's
right?
Sold, not bought. Yeah, that's right. That's something we're trying to kind of flip on its head, but yes.
Okay. So with this new model, basically, as a life agent, basically what I would need to do is get people to find my website. Once they find my website, then Elisa will really assist in turning that into a productive conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I do also want to stress too that we are really centered on this goes into the, like, it's not something people want to talk about, because there are other reasons to talk about permanent life insurance too, so it is a little bit, and that's where we do tend to focus on permanent products and higher premium permanent products. And the leads that are produced from this tend to skew towards those permanent products. And we help, so there's two ways. So say Elisa is on a life insurance agent's website. If they get organic traffic, great, and somebody wants to move through, and kind of, oh yeah, I want to use that digital advisor. I want to get an initial recommendation here. I'm not ready to talk to somebody, but yeah, I want to stay on this website. and it helps keep people on the website, gives them something to do should they choose to do it. The other part of it, if you are kind of a motivated life insurance agent or a motivated insurance agent and are looking to get people in the door, is we set up all your marketing for you. So if you're doing, and we want you to be able to make better use of those marketing dollars. It doesn't do any good to do a paid search or Facebook ads or any paid social to get people to your website if they come to your website and then they're not seeing what they're looking for. And we help them keep them there and get them involved with your firm, and then hopefully they stay sticky to your firm because you provided something for them, versus if they're looking for other alternatives, they're like, no, oh, got it, I'm going to stay here for a while, they've given me something, I'm expecting their call now, and I've already gone through this process. And so that's part of what we're helping, that is part of what we're enabling people to do.
Okay. What is the implementation like? So once I reach out to you guys, how do I get on board?
Right. Sure. There's, we'll ask a couple different questions. There's different, right now we're leaning into, we want you to have your own accounts. We will create a Google ad campaign for you. It's your account. We manage it for you and all that, but we just need some basic information from you so we can set up that account. And you have access to everything, fully transparent. That's part of the key to the whole thing. And then we just need access to your website in some way, shape, or form. And we'll work with you to be like, all right, where do you want this? Where do you want the button? What do you want the button to say? Do you want it to say, use Elisa? Do you want to have a little picture of Elisa? Do you just want to say, use our digital advisor? Anything along those lines. And then if we're doing if you're supplying a marketing budget, or you're buying leads, we would argue this is a better way to use of that budget, is it drops when it comes from something we've set up for you, it drops right into that advisory experience that matches what the person is trying to accomplish from that marketing. And that's kind of where we bridge the gap between kind of a bait and switch. I want to get started online. Now they can get started online. So I don't want to say it's like super simple, but we do it for you. It's kind of, we get your information. You need to give us a little bit of access, and then we do everything.
Yeah. What is the pricing like?
Right now, we're charging per lead, but it's not like a charge. It's not like the same. The cost of per lead to an agent is what it costs from the marketing campaign to acquire that lead, plus we tack on a little bit. So that's what our revenue model is. So, but again, because it's transparent, our mission in life is to drive that cost per lead, that same high intent, but to get good, and all the optimizations and paid search stuff that we know how to do is to drive that cost per lead down. So our fee plus that cost per lead is significantly less per kind of, as a ratio of price per intent, is significantly less than what you're paying for if you're buying leads currently.
Okay. And it looks like Elisa for Life is pretty new. So according to your LinkedIn, right, earlier this year, going on a little bit more than 6 months. How many agents are you deployed with, and what are they saying? What kind of feedback are you getting?
Right. Good question. So that LinkedIn's a little deceptive because, I didn't kind of post anything until we were a little away. Plus the firm that I was with prior, I'd done it for 3 years. But your initial point is absolutely true. We are getting our first clients on board now. And different agents have different goals with it. One of our clients, some clients will use it on, like, this is something I would, sell or kind of suggest is, a lot of people would say, we like you said, everyone needs PNC, right? Like it's mandatory. And so we we start with that, and then we sell a relatively higher profit life insurance. I'm trying to flip that around and go, hey, look, there's people every day trying to get started like this online with life insurance. Let's flip the script on that. Let's start with the kind of higher profit product, especially a permanent higher premium product. And so they might shift marketing dollars, and go, let's start with this and then go the other direction. That's one kind of type of client that would want to accomplish that. And then we have a few people, and one specifically that we're working with right now, that is kind of, they're giving us free reign. They're like, no, I want to create a business around this. I want to, he's been selling life insurance for many, many years. He sees the value in what we're doing compared to the way he was talking to people, and trying to sell them life insurance. And he's like, we're creating a website with his help for him, specifically around, let's get people to this experience. And then, his goal is to, now I want to build an agency around this. I would almost say like, and I'm not putting words in this person's mouth, but almost like an MGA, a BGA or an MGA or an IMO, like, hey, this is how I'm going to attract agents. This is how I'm going to sell myself. Here's the leads that will help you get, and they'll wrap up under him, kind of like, would wrap up under a BGA. He has a BGA, but this work. And we want to deal with BGAs too at some point and help their agents sell more life insurance, and for them to help them attract agents to their firm by showing them how they're going to get them leads.
All right. How did you realize that this was a problem in the life space, and that you were the right people to fix it?
All right. So now we can get a little bit into my background, real quick. So I started in finance, but not insurance at all. I was with big banks. Like, I worked on the Florida Stock Exchange for Goldman Sachs, and then I did sales trading, and I covered hedge funds and mutual funds, stuff like that. And then I started my first fintech company. This is ancient history at this point, but it was it's called algorithmic trading management, and it was taking large equity orders, breaking them down into little pieces, and then doing what humans would do with it. Like, all right. And that was at one point said, you can't do this. This is human beings only. You need a human touch to do this. An algorithm can never do this the same way a human can do. But now, that being said, the Florida Stock Exchange had 6,000 people down there when I was on it, and now there's 400. And the trading desks and I've seen that happen with a lot of financial service verticals. Now only humans can do this. And I want to be clear, because this is something I don't communicate, I don't think, as well as I should, is that we're not trying to do away with agents at all. It's to keep the agents in business, to make sure they can get in front of people and then do their thing. But that's kind of how it came about. Is the firm I'd started before was, I'd done research. Somebody had approached me and been like, permanent life insurance is kind of stuck in the stone ages of distribution, and there is no online experience for it. So my brain immediately went to, all right, I've seen this before. It's not that complicated. I did my research. I was like, I did all the, the consultancy reports and, LIMRA and all the studies and all that. And, it's a problem, aging sales force, all the things that everybody reads about all the time. But what are we doing to solve that? And that's how I got very interested in, how do we kind of, rising tide lifts all ships. How do we do for this industry? Because how is life insurance going to compete with all these shiny objects that are online? And you can do all this fancy stuff online now, and you're competing for that same financial consumer's dollar. How are you going to keep up with Robinhood and Betterment and Wealthfront and all these other fintechs that have kind of given that generation of consumer something to do with their money? So we did see there was a problem. We knew there was a problem. There was kind of a vacuum there. And only because of my experience in doing this with other financial service verticals, that's what got me interested in it. I also then realized pretty quickly, or I don't know if it was pretty quickly or not, depending on what your definition of that is that permanent life insurance is a complicated product, and it's permanent, and it's more expensive than term. There are very good reasons why it would resist pure automation. So my brain kind of went from, no, I can do this, to no, it's not even wise to do this. But there is still a middle ground here that needs to be traversed to, for the life insurance industry. And, who knows? I mean, we could throw out terms like AI and all that stuff at some point. But, I'm not a big believer that AI is ever going to invade the permanent life insurance space, or at least not for quite some time. That would almost be dangerous. But I also am a proponent of AI, but I'm just, it's not, and we're not trying to do away with humans here.
What is in the development pipeline? So what features are coming down that you can really talk about that you're excited about?
Yeah, that's great question. So this is the beginning. So the way, and again, I'm not an industry outsider at this point, but my background's in, not in insurance. So I've really tried to figure out kind of, why maybe insurance, and again, we're making huge progress, but is a little farther behind other financial service verticals. And this is not a knock, and I don't think it's any big secret that the carriers move fairly slowly, and a lot of it stems from carrier kind of top down. If you need to work with the carriers and the carriers, API games are, a little behind schedule, it's hard. But I've seen also a lot of the Insurtechs, and I've, been through a lot of the programs and, been to the event and know a lot of the guys out there that are conquering different things are from the insurance industry, and they're doing a great job of making agents' lives easier. With normalizing carrier software, making hubs and spokes. You don't have to deal with everybody individually, all that good stuff. We're focused much more on, you need the customers first before you can care about if your life is going to be made easier, right? So let's deal with the customer side of things and the consumer preferences, make sure we can satisfy those, and then work downstream. Or I don't know if you call it downstream, upstream, whatever. But that's kind of, so we're starting there, but then we do want to move downstream as well. So we get so many inputs and details from Elisa, your electronic life insurance sales assistant. There's a lot we can do with all that via APIs to then make either the agent's life easier in a few different ways, including, creating illustrations, for them. They get the lead with an illustration from their favorite carrier. I like to sell Pacific Life IUL. I shouldn't even be, who cares which one it is, but I like this carrier for an IUL, I like this for a whole life policy. Great. And we could, kind of deliver an illustration along with, so they could, and pull out some data for them so they could literally be ready on the first call with, hey, look, we're looking at cash value at age 70 here, already, it's fully prepared. There's another way we could do that too. I don't know if agents would want this, but because we get so much details, we can actually go out and go, all right, let's run illustrations behind the scenes with your four favorite carriers, and then look at different metrics that they would care about, whether it's, IRR, cash value to a certain age, 20 years out or whatever. Compare those and then find the one that performs the best and show that, with all the disclaimers, the full illustration attached and everything to the customer. So now we're getting the customer even farther along in the process before they talk to a human, if that is what a certain type of consumer wants. So we're starting with getting the customers, giving them the experience they want, and then we want to kind of make the agent's life easier, down the road. And then we'll move into, applications where, and that's what we did in my previous company, is we were trying to get as far along in the process to where the agent does it, that first call could almost be, now I don't know, we didn't get there, by the way, could almost be like, kind of like a, know your customer call, just to make sure that this is, that we didn't miss anything here. But again, every agent has a different approach to this, and we're not trying to tell agents how to do their job. We want to give them kind of a la carte options of how do you want us to approach your customers that get here on your site at your company? And how do we help you do your job the way you want to do it?
Yeah, so an extremely agent central and agent centric approach to what you're doing and how you want to go forward. Excellent. Excellent. For those that want to learn more, when the podcast goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn. Very cool. Life has always been a pain to sell.
Yeah.
And leads are, for everything I've heard, expensive and generally sold to multiple agents. So yes, a way to create my own leads in a modern way that's not that also is not creating a pain for the client is definitely
Exactly right.
way forward.
Yeah, that was, I could have said that is one of my other firm. We had, very experienced life insurer. We were direct to consumer. We were selling the life insurance. Is, one of their big things is me not in the industry forever and selling a bunch of life insurance. They're like, this call is completely different. Like I have to completely change. Like I'm used to getting on and like holding on for dear life about like convincing them, no, stay on the phone, stay on the phone, stay on the phone. And, they're like, no, these people they want to buy life insurance, like that's why the way this came about and the way why I'm talking to them is different than other ways I've talked to them for the last 20 years. And, that's encouraging.
Yes, that
Yep.
is the way it should be, and historically has not been. Awesome. Todd, thank you for your time today. Very, very interesting stuff that you're working on. Looking forward to see you grow this over the next couple of years. Maybe bring you back on the show later. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no, Tony, this was great. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.